Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Christian Conversations with Crystal. I am Crystal, and I hope everyone has been blessed, been safe, and that everything has been going well. Um, I'm coming back to this YouTube channel with another message slash conversation, and it has kind of turned into a series for me with my previous two messages concerning the book of Daniel. And I guess that's just how God wanted it to flow. With this third message, I am still in the book of Daniel. And my previous messages were set apart, God's provision, promotion, and elevation. And the second one was stand up, God's provision and protection. And if I would have to give a title to the message on today, it is Stand Still, God's protection, promotion, and elevation. So, studying the book of Daniel has been a blessing to me. I don't know if you could potentially say you have a favorite book in the Bible because all the books are great, but I really connect with the book of Daniel. It's so many relatable pieces that Daniel experienced, that he went through, that I can say in my Christian walk and just in life in general that I have experienced as well. So I really am enjoying studying the book, and I hope this message is going to be a blessing to someone. So once again, if I would have to give a title to it, it's Stand Still, God's Protection, Promotion, and Elevation. So we are coming out of Daniel chapter 6 today. And the generalized story for this particular message is very well known. Within chapter 6, we learn about Daniel and then his trial with him being thrown into the lion's den. And as children and as adults as well, we have heard this story again and again and again. But when you sit down and read it and really study it and really try to get a better understanding of it, it really shows and proves yet again in this book as well as in other books in the Bible how awesome God is and how he will move and how he will provide and protect and take care of his people if you are obedient and you serve him. So I'm just going to read a few of the scriptures within chapter 6 and, just provide you some of my thoughts and feelings about this word. So it says, chapter 6, I'm going to start at verse 2. It says, let's start at verse 1. It said, it pleased Darius to set over the kingdom 120 princes, which should be over the whole kingdom. Okay, now at this time, Darius was king. If you go back to chapter 5, Belshazzar was king, and he became king after Nebuchadnezzar. But actually in chapter 5, Daniel interpreted the handwriting on the wall and predicted that he was going to be overthrown and would be killed, and then that a new king was coming, and this new king is King Darius in this particular part of Daniel. And it says that and over these three presidents, of whom Daniel was first, that the princes might give accounts unto them, and the king should have no damage. Then this Daniel was preferred above the presidents and princes, because an excellent spirit was in him, and the king thought to set him over the whole realm. So off the bat, we see that once again, because of Daniel being fully committed to God, because of Daniel serving God, God once again has given him favor with yet another king. So Daniel has been through, I think at this point, this is his third king, and yet again, he has favor with this king. And once again, that's just showing how awesome God is and how he will provide for his people. We know that Daniel was gifted with the ability to have visions and interpret dreams. And that was something that we saw him do throughout the other chapters in the book of Daniel. And God allowed him to use that dream for his promotion, for his elevation, for him to be able to interpret dreams. God allowed him to use that gift, and God knew that him having that gift and utilizing that gift for those particular kings was going to be a way for him to have favor with them, was going to be a way for him to be elevated in the kingdom. Once again, Daniel he's a captive, you know. He's an outcast. He's an outsider to the Chaldeans and to the people of, I guess, the normal kingdom. And of course, when you're in a situation where people see you as an outcast, they see you as beneath them, they see you as someone that is not their equal. But when they see that God is elevating you, when God is promoting you, when God is providing you with things that they feel like you shouldn't have, the first thing that happens is jealousy. They become jealous, they become envious, and they want your downfall. They want to see your downfall. And that's exactly what happened yet again to Daniel. You know, Daniel has already experienced, his enemies coming against him in previous chapters because they were jealous of the favor that he had with the kings, and they always sought to target him and to bring him down. And that's something that as Christians, when you are a true follower of Christ, that you have to experience sometimes, because we are seen as the oddballs. We are seen as the odd man out. We're not going with the status quo. We're not doing what everybody else is doing. But because we are being obedient to God and are serving him to the best of our ability, God will still provide. He will give us favor. He will promote us. He will elevate us right before the eyes of our enemies. And the enemies don't understand why. And they can't fully comprehend how this is happening with this person who I consider not to be my equal and who I consider to be, an outsider. But look how they are blessed. Look how God is moving in their lives. And it causes them to, like I said, become jealous and not want to see that person prosper. So it says in verse 4, it says, then the presidents and princes sought to find occasion against Daniel concerning the kingdom, but they could find none, occasion nor fault, forasmuch as he was faithful, neither was there any error or fault found in him. So here we go with his enemies rallying against him, trying to target him and bring him down. But they did their research. They tried to dig and find something to hold against them before the king, and there was nothing. Daniel was completely innocent. He served his king. He was loyal. He was honest. But Daniel, first and foremost, was a man of God, and he served his God first and foremost. But at that point, they couldn't find anything against him. Okay, so in verse 5, it says, then said these men, we shall not find any occasion against this Daniel, except we find it against him concerning the law of his God. So they knew they couldn't get him on any other front. They couldn't get him for his work ethic, for anything he was doing, in his personal life. So they decided to attack that relationship, that duty, that commitment that he had to God. So long story short, the princes, the councilmen, the captains, they all consulted together for Daniel's downfall. And what they came up with was a decree that they would convince King Darius to sign into law. And this decree was saying that no one could pray to any other gods for 30 days. Okay. And they did this specifically to target Daniel, because they knew Daniel was devout to his God. They knew Daniel prayed multiple times a day. So his enemies found a way to devise a plan to try to take him down by targeting his relationship with God. And this is why I love this book, because it's still so relatable to today. As Christians, number one, we have to be mindful of who we keep in our circles, who we associate ourselves with, because if people can't find a way to bring you down, in general aspects, then they'll target your relationship with God. They'll target your walk with Jesus Christ in order to bring you down, because they are jealous of where God has promoted you to and elevated you to. And so that's why we have to always be mindful of people, of associates, and who we connect ourselves with. Okay, so they convinced Daniel to sign this decree. Okay, and he signed it into law. All right, and once it was signed, uh, you know, that didn't stop Daniel from doing God's will. Okay, and that's something that is so important as well as Christians. No matter what is going on around us, no matter what people have declared or what they've put in place, or what the scenario may be, we cannot stop doing God's will. We cannot stop being obedient to God and doing what He expects us to do just because man has a different idea and a different plan. Um, and it was, same situation here with Daniel. Daniel was devout. He would pray 3 times a day. He would seek God. He would petition God, and his enemies knew that. So they tried to use that for his downfall. Okay. So, and, with Daniel knowing about the decree, he had a choice. Once again, that goes back to my previous messages where, himself as well as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were put in situations where they had a choice to make. Okay. They could have chose to just bow down and, just completely, give in to what the kings and what the princes and counselors expected them to do, or they could stand their ground and they could continue to serve God as He expected them to. And that's what He did. And that's why God moved and why God saved them out of situations and why God protected and provided for them and elevated them and promoted them, because no matter what the opposition was, they made up in their minds that they weren't going to take down, that they weren't going to do anything differently, that they were going to continue to, put their trust in God and serve God versus serving man first and foremost. And I just thank God for that message in this word. So it says that in verse 11, it says, then these men assembled and found Daniel praying and making supplication before his God, which they knew he was going to do anyway, And another thing about your enemies, they watch you, okay? They watch you. They observe your behaviors. They observe your actions to try to target you in a lot of respects, to see what areas that they can target, that they can attack. And so that's why we got to stay prayed up. We got to put on the whole armor of God. We got to keep God in the forefront of our minds, because everybody out here is not our friend. Everybody out here is not out for our good. People can smile in your face and be ready to stab you in the back at any moment. That's why it's better to put your trust in God than put your trust in man, because man will change. Man will flip the script. Man will completely go from night to day on you in the blink of an eye. So that's why it's important for us to trust in God, be obedient to Him, serve Him, and let Him work it out in the end. And then it says in verse 12 that then they came near and spake before the king concerning the king's decree. Okay. Now they know they had already gotten the king to sign the decree. It was law. It was mandatory. But they're going to come before him and bring it to his attention again, because they know Daniel has broken the law and they want him to suffer the consequences. So they bring the decree before him again and say, like, asking him questions. Well, King Darius, did you not say? They know what King Darius said because they're the ones who put the decree together from the beginning. So they know he signed it into law. They knew what he said. So, and the punishment for breaking this decree was to be thrown into the lion's den. That was the punishment. And after they questioned King Darius and got him all riled up, They said to the king in verse 13, then answered they and said before the king that Daniel, which is of the children of the captivity of Judah, regardeth not thee, O king, nor the decree that thou hast signed, but maketh his petition 3 times a day. So they went to the king first to just remind him of what he had signed into law and what the decree was, and to I guess to prepare him for, okay, but we have someone that is going against what you have decreed. Okay. Now it says in verse 14 that when he heard these words, when King Darius heard those words, he was displeased with himself. Okay. And he wanted to deliver Daniel. Okay. Because he knew Daniel was a just man. He was a loyal man. You know, he always interpreted his dreams, and he served him to the best of his ability. So the king, finding out that they were trying to condemn Daniel, you know, it kind of vexed him a little bit. He didn't want to have to send Daniel to the lion's den, because he knew Daniel was a good man and a just man. But he labored, they said, until the sun went down to try to find a way to get around his decree, to find a way to deliver Daniel. But ultimately, at the end, what the king decreed, it was decreed. It was done. You know, he couldn't go back and change it. Okay. So, you know, it says that in verse 15, that no decree nor statute which the king established may be changed. So those counselors, those princes, they assembled together again because they knew the king was trying to find a quote unquote loophole to his decree to prevent Daniel from being thrown into the lion's den. They went back to him and say, but oh king, you know, you've decreed this. This has been in law. You've signed it. It's done. You can't change it. Okay. So at that point, the king, knowing that it was no turning back from this decree, commanded that they get Daniel and cast him into the den of lions. Okay. Now here's a part in verse 16, I think that was, very important. It says, now the king spake and said unto Daniel, thy God whom thou servest continually, he will deliver thee. Now here we are, King Darius, okay, who was not a believer in Daniel's God. I'm pretty sure they were worshiping, other gods and multiple gods, but he believed so much in Daniel and his lifestyle and the actions of Daniel and how Daniel had served him and how Daniel believed in his God, that he spoke that Daniel's God would deliver him, and that's why it's also important as Christians for us to serve God wholeheartedly so that non-believers can see how serious we are about our walk with him. Okay. If Daniel was on the fence, if Daniel was kind of, as we could say, half-stepping, serve God, a couple of days out the week, and the other part of the week he did what he wanted to do. If he wasn't devout, if he wasn't committed, King Darius wouldn't have been able to say those words to him, that his God would deliver him. So King Darius saw Daniel's life. He saw how he served his God. So even with King Darius, who was not someone who served God and who was not someone who believed in Daniel's God, he still believed in the power of Daniel's God and that Daniel's God could deliver him. And that's why we have to be mindful about what we do and what we say, our lives in front of people, especially non-believers, because it makes a difference. It impacts them, and we never want to damage our witness. We never want to damage the witness of the church and of Jesus Christ, because our lives are supposed to draw them. They're supposed to see something that's different in us that is unexplainable. King Darius probably couldn't explain, how Daniel was and why he was like that and why he was so committed and in love with his God and wanted to serve his God. And he saw something different in Daniel that he didn't see in the other leaders and people in authority in his kingdom, in his court. He saw something different. And that's what as Christians, we have to portray something different to people so that they'll want to know more about why we are like we are and why we make the decisions that we make. So it'll influence them to hopefully decide to give their lives to Christ. Okay. So Daniel was cast into the lion's den. Okay. And the king went on his day. You know, it says he passed the night fasting. You know, he didn't listen to any music. But he couldn't sleep. You know, he was vexed. His spirit was being tormented because he knew he had done something that wasn't right. He knew that he had cast a just man into the lion's den. And then it says in verse 19 that the king rose very early in the morning and went in haste unto the den of lions. Okay. And in verse 20 it says, and when he came to the den, he cried with a lamentable voice. That means he was sorrowful. He was sad unto Daniel. And the king spake and said to Daniel, O Daniel, servant of the living God. So once again, recognizing who God is. He doesn't even serve Daniel's God, but he recognizes that Daniel's God is the living God. Is thy God, whom thou servest continually, able to deliver thee from the lions? So at that point, you know, he recognized who Daniel's God was, that he was the one true God, he was a living God, and he just called out and questioned, was your God able to spare you and save you from the lions, Daniel? And at that moment, I'm pretty sure it probably was a moment of silence and just nervously waiting to see if he's going to hear anything. Because, of course, at that time, he would have expected Daniel to probably have been torn to shreds and devoured by the lions. So he called out to him, waiting for a response. And it says in verse 21, then said Daniel unto the king, O king, live forever. 22 says, my God hath sent his angel and hath shut the lions' mouths, that they have not hurt me. For as much as before him innocency was found in me, and also before thee, O king, have I done no hurt. And in verse 23, first part, it said, then was the king exceeding glad for him, and commanded that they should take Daniel up out of the lion den. So in this particular scenario, the king called out to Daniel, didn't know what to expect, didn't know if it was going to be silence because he was devoured and dead. But Daniel called back out to him and responded to him, and King Darius was relieved that Daniel was still alive, and Daniel gave testament to his God. It says, my God hath sent his angel and hath shut the lion's mouth, okay, because he found him to be innocent. He found him to be innocent. He found him to be committed and serving him to the best of his ability. So God protected and provided a way of escape for him. And that's what our God does, okay? When you serve him wholeheartedly, when you're committed to him and you're trying to live a life that's pleasing to him, no matter what comes up against you, no matter what the enemy sends, God provides a way of escape. He provides protection. You know, he will save you out of all of these troubles, out of all of these trials and tribulations. And then at the end of verse 23, it says, so Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no manner of hurt was found upon him, because he believed in his God. And that's what's so important in this scenario and so many others in the Bible. The people believed in their God. And belief in God is amazing. It's powerful. It can overcome anything when you believe in him, you know. And like I said, it shows other people who may not have a relationship with him, who may not know him, the goodness of God, the mercy of God, the awesomeness of God, when you believe him no matter what. And I just thank God for that. Now, you know, his enemies came up against him, Daniel's enemies, and once again plotted against them to get him condemned and thrown into the lion's den. But Daniel was a devoted man of God. He believed and trusted in God, and he was found innocent. So God saved him and spared him. But it also says in the word that Daniel's enemies and those who plotted against him had to suffer the same consequence that they had plotted and laid out for him. And I thank God, because God fights our battles. The Bible says, "Vengeance belongeth to me, saith the Lord." And when people come up against you to mean you harm, to mean you hurt, to try to bring you down and to destroy you, that same trap, that same outcome or consequence that they've laid up for you, God will turn that thing around and they will have to suffer that same consequence that they had put up for you. And it says that in verse 24, and the king commanded, and they brought those same men that was plotting against Daniel, those same men that wanted to see him fall, that wanted to see him killed because they were jealous of how God was blessing him and how God was promoting him in the kingdom. Those men which had accused Daniel, and they cast them into the den of lions. And look at this, how God moves. That's why God is amazing. He's awesome. And then it says also that their children and their wives were also cast into the den. So not only did God bring that same fate on to the men who were plotting against Daniel, the men's wives and children were also condemned to be cast into the lion's den. That's why, people of God, we have to trust in God. We have to believe in him and let him fight our battles. People who are coming up against us, who don't like us because of the God in us, not because of anything that we've done to them, but because of the God in us and how God is moving in our lives, we just have to pray for them, and we have to continue to believe and trust in God. And it doesn't matter that you can't see what they're plotting for you, because God knows. God knows, and he will turn that thing around and he will send it back to the sender tenfold. You know, I bet those men never would have thought that with them plotting and trying to bring Daniel down, that they themselves and their wives and their children were going to end up in the lion's den, devoured, destroyed, dead. But that's the type of God that we serve. He is an awesome God. He's a powerful God. He is a God of justice. You know, and he takes care of his people. That's why I wanted this message title to be "Stand Still." Just stand still. I'm pretty sure when Daniel was in the lion's den, what could he do? You're a human being, a man in the lion's den with lions, ferocious lions walking all around you. What could you do but stand still and see the salvation of the Lord? And that's actually one of my favorite scriptures as well in the Bible, which is in Exodus chapter 14, and it's 13 through 15. And that was Moses trying to reassure the people, you know, once Pharaoh's army was after them, that God was still in control, that he can do all things. And it says in verse 13, it says, and Moses said unto the people, fear ye not, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will show to you today. For the Egyptians whom you have seen today, you shall see them again no more forever. 14 says, the Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. And God, I thank you for those scriptures, because we have to have that mindset. We have to know that God is fighting for us. We might not be able to see it. We might not be able to bear witness to it, you know what I'm saying, or be able to feel God moving. But God is fighting for us in all situations. And he's gonna protect his people. He's gonna provide for his people. And when you come out of that thing, you know, God is gonna make you, you know, put you in an even greater place than you were before. That's the type of God that we serve, because that's exactly what he did for Daniel. When Daniel came out of that thing, it says that in verse 28, it says, so this Daniel prospered in the reign of Darius and in the reign of Cyrus the Persian. So he prospered not only under King Darius, but then prospered under the next king, you know. So God not only blessed him with that one king, that one generation of kingship, but took those blessings and that prosperity and that elevation over into the next reign of the next king. And that's the God we serve. That's why we have to continue to trust him, put our trust in him rather than in man, no matter what man is saying. No matter what man is doing, you know, man can't battle God. Man has no power against the God that we serve. Like Darius said to Daniel, he is the living God, the one true God with all power. So no matter what you might be up against, what people are trying to plot to do, or what people have in store for you, you trust in God. You trust in God, and you continue to make a stand. You continue to do God's will. You continue to be obedient to Him, and He is going to handle it. Believe me, He is going to take care of it. He's going to move people out the way. You know, He's going to open doors that no man can shut. He's going to close doors that no man can open. He is going to move on your behalf according to His will. And in the end, you're going to be even better for it. God going to bless you. Like I said, He's going to elevate you. He's going to promote you. He's going to give you favor. He's going to allow you to prosper in things in your life. But we have to trust Him and be obedient to Him. We have to take a stand. We have to make a decision. We have to do what is right. We can't go with the status quo. We can't do what the group is doing. We can't do what everyone else is doing. I know it makes us seem the odd man out, and something must be wrong with them, or what I'm saying, why don't they do this and why don't they do that? It causes people to dislike you because you're so different. But if you are different because you are serving Jesus Christ, then that is perfectly fine. If you're gonna be different for any reason, if you're gonna be odd for any reason, be odd for serving Jesus Christ, and let Him fight your battles, and let Him prepare the way for you, according to His will and according to the destiny that He has in store for you. So once again, the book of Daniel, I have just been enjoying studying this word, because like I said, just like with this particular book and all the other books in the Bible, the situations, the scenarios, the experiences that God's people went through are still relatable today. We still can learn so much from these experiences. What we cannot forget, saints of God, is that the same God that delivered Daniel from the lion's den is the same God that we serve today. He is God, and He changeth not. So He is not less powerful. He is not less aware of what's happening to His people or what's going on in the world. God knew our end at the beginning. He is the same God, and He is going to move in His time and in His hour. It's not about our time and hour. It's about His time and His hour, because if God so chose, He could have delivered Daniel before he even went to the lion's den. He could have changed Darius's heart and told and had Darius to just nullify the decree before Daniel even went to the lion's den. But God will sometimes allow His people to experience turmoil and trials and negative situations just to strengthen our faith in Him, and to also show others that He is the living God, that He is the one true God, and that nobody can refute that. Nobody can go against it. I don't care what the scientists say. I don't care what the theologians say. I don't care what the anti-Christians or the atheists say. He is God Almighty, and nobody can do anything about it. And nobody is more powerful and more awesome than Him. And sometimes we go through things so He can show and prove that to people. But I just thank God for this word. It has blessed me. I hope it has blessed you. I admonish you to continue to serve God no matter what it looks like. I know this world is to me, it's just reeling all out of control right now. So many things going on, but we have to rest in Him. Just like Moses told the people in that last verse, it says, hold your peace. We got to have that trust and that faith in God where we can be at peace in any situation. No matter what may be happening around us, we got to trust in Him so mightily that we are standing in the middle of a hurricane, and we are at peace. That's the type of peace that we need, the peace and the joy of the Lord, that we can stand, that we can still say we serve Jesus Christ, that we can still say that we are committed and being obedient to Him, no matter what's circling or what's going on around us, because we know that God will fight our battles, and we have to continue to trust in that. So I just ask all of you to continue to serve Jesus Christ, to the best of your ability. If you don't know him for the pardon of your sins, if you don't have a relationship with him, seek him. Seek him while he may be found. Seek him, read his word, pray, and let him move. Let him do a work in you, because we need him. We need him just like Daniel needed God, and we need God. We need Jesus Christ in our lives today to help us to be able to make it day to day to day. This is a daily journey, and we can't do it alone. Without him, we are nothing. We need him. So I will continue to pray for you all. I pray that everyone is still wearing their masks and following the laws of the land. I will continue to pray concerning the vaccines that are being administered. And just let God have his way, because God knows what we need as a people. So I hope you've enjoyed this message. Y'all just continue to serve God. And as always, please let God have his way. Y'all take care.